Today I want to show you how to put together a custom sequence in the software for the Depisteo VT1 vision screener. So you can see here I've got some different sequences that are already with the software when you first load it. So these ones are kind of in there when you first load it, but you can customize it. And so what these basically are is you could have a lot of different tests. Like here's a couple on the screen here. You could just click on it and this with your computer connected to the vision screener, you would go through each test, clicking on it. This is the binocular for acuity. If you decided you wanted the Landau rings, you would click there and say, I want to test the right eye only. And in the machine, only the right eye would be exposed to the rings and the person would have to read off if the ring is on the left side or right side, left side, bottom, etc. So let's get into the sequence because I think this is the power of the software that you can make your own custom sequences. Also, I'll touch on this that if for more information, if you click on help and go to user manual, it'll open up the VT1 user manual, and also this one here is the description and interpretation of tests. And both would be good to, if you have questions, to look at that and it may answer your questions. So if I double click this, it'll open up the manual. So let's go back to the software. And I'm going to go under options and parameters and sequences. So if I want to have a new sequence, maybe I will call it awk test sequence. Okay. So now I've got all the available tests over here and I can add them as required. I have binocular vision. Actually, some of these options change as you go through. The light, like high light, also distance optical mode, things like far, intermediate, and near. So I can pick that and the machine will adjust depending on how I want the test performed. So let's look at a fairly basic sequence that may be used for awk health. So one of the common tests would be fusion. And I want it far, but I may want it near. But in this case, I want it far, high light, and binocular. So I click there, this adds it into the sequence. Next, I have a choice. I could do acuity with the rings or acuity with the letters. So you know what, I'll do the letters and I want binocular. So I'll click this one. So that's with both eyes. And again, far and high light. Now let's go and test each eye too. So first I will test, it defaults to left, but I could make it right if I wanted to. Let's just do it this way again, highlight, far, and now I want to do the right eye. So you can see it's going to sequence through all these tests. If I stop here, so if I hit apply and OK, now I go to this awk test sequence. These are, now I can click on these like I was before to start each test, but if I hit the space bar and if your computer's hooked up to the VT1 machine, it will start the test basically. So if I click this, I get my fusion. And with this test, you can read more about it, but basically it makes sure your eyes are working together. There are no issues with the way you're interpreting things. Basically the eyes are cooperating and working together. And the right answer is basically the question here too is how many white dots do you see? The highlighted answer is 4 dots. If they see anything else, there's some problem with the way their vision is correcting when both eyes are working together. If I hit the space bar again, it goes to the acuity with letters. And we've got all the scores here. And another part of the software, we can put in what the minimum score is. So if your company has, say, 2035 or 2030 vision requirement, you could have it where if they don't, as they read down, like in the machine, these letters will be very big at the top. And as they go down, they'll get smaller and smaller and harder to read. And so say if they measure, if they're able to read here, I click it, that may be a pass or fail depending on the scoring that we've set up. So this was with both eyes. If I now click with the next step will be this a list of letters, but with only the left eye. So maybe we're able to read to here. And you can see as it's doing, it's actually scoring it over here. And I click again, and now it's testing the right eye. And I'm able to maybe go here. Okay. And that was the end of the test sequence. And I could see my scores here. I didn't actually answer this one, but it would have, if I would have answered this, then I would have been able to pass this one as well. So now I can go back into this. And I can, let's go to the sequence I want, occupational test sequence. And I'm down to acuity with the letters, but maybe I want something important, might be depth perception. So let's go with depth perception. Both eyes would be needed for depth perception. And I hit add. Colors may be important. So let's do this one. Let's see what else. Peripheral vision. Okay, so that's, I mean, we have a lot of tests we could choose from, so we could keep adding them. We could try a test and see how it goes, see if we like it or not. The other thing we could do now, if I decided I want to do the test for color blindness a bit earlier, I can now move it up the sequence, or I can move it down the sequence. So you can have full control, and I'm able to now apply that. And when I hit OK, and now if I recall this test sequence again, now I have more tests based on what I've got in that list. The next thing we will get into, because we have these tests, and you can go through, like if I there's another video on entering the person's name and working with the software. But if I just wanted to run a test right now, I'd hit the space bar, and if and I read, okay, how many dots do you see? And these questions that the person that's operating the unit, those questions can be customized, but these are suggested questions. So this is the correct answer. I can either click next or I can hit the space bar. Again, I could do this. Okay, so we're doing this. It is going and it's doing things, but we don't have our scoring, our minimum amounts in there. And that's something I'll show next. Also, this depth perception test, when the person looks through the machine into the VT1, they'll see for this first, if we look just only at the first triangle, in that first test that we'll see 4 objects, one being a triangle. One will seem, it basically says begin with image 1, which figure seems to float. The triangle will seem out of place when they look at it for depth perception. It won't seem to be on the same plane, or it'll seem like it's further away. So they would choose that. And as you go, it gets harder and harder. And the difference between the depth perception test gets harder and harder. So that's the basics of the test. And the next one we get into, I'll show you under parameters again, sequences. So we've set all this up under sequences. Here's my awk test sequence. The next thing I want to get into is scoring, because I want to be able to now put a minimum score attached to each one of these tests.